Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
and we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs. All right, welcome in. We are back. Matt Verderame is back on the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Patrick Allen here on Thursdays, as usual. Sorry, missed last week. Had some family stuff to deal with. But really excited to welcome Sports Illustrated's Matt Verderame back to the show. Matt, how you doing, man? How's your summer been?
Good. Glad to be back. It's been good. I was on vacation for a while, which was nice. Got to go back east and see everybody and hang out and kind of get recharged because now it's back. Now football season is back in a big way. So there's no vacation now till like May.
Yeah, those of us who work in sports, in particular, covering the NFL, your time is past. Some people sneak in something around training camp, but things really pick up. And as I understand it, you're going to be hitting up a few training camps in this area.
Yeah, I will be. So I will be. Let's see, it's going to be eight places. I'm tweeting out the link to the pod right now, so everybody knows I'm on. Okay, there we go. Did my job. So yeah, I'm going to start on my 35th birthday, which is fitting. I think I'm going to see Carm on my 35th birthday, which is interesting. It's an interesting way to celebrate a birthday.
Yeah.
I will be in Chicago August 4th, and then it's going to be Indy the next day, Cincy the day after that, then Cleveland August 7th, the Lions and the Giants in Detroit joint practice on the 8th, and then I'm going to go back home and sleep for 4 days straight, go to Minnesota. And then I'll be in KC for a couple of days, one practice, 2 days. I've just got an extra day there. And then I'll be in Green Bay to wrap it all up. So eight tour dates. Looking forward to it. I've got a bunch of exclusive stuff scheduled. It'll be fun.
When did the divorce papers go through?
Oh, God. They're already being filed.
Yeah.
It's thank God that we have daycare that is kicking back in August 1st. My sister-in-law watches our 1-year-old, and she has been on paternity leave for the last, whatever it's been, 2 months, 3 months. So August 1st, Genevieve goes back to daycare, and Maisie's in like a summer camp that she's all about. So at least Steph is only on the hook with the kids for like a couple hours at night. But she's not looking forward to me being gone for a week straight. Or maybe she is. Maybe she's like, this is great. Get out. I mean, that's completely possible too.
I'm seeing it as a win-lose for her. Win-lose.
Mostly a win.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to ask you, because we haven't talked, it's been a minute. And the last show that you were on, I was not on. So the Eagles, they just can't stop talking about the Super Bowl. I saw that you tweeted about this. And I just was curious to get your thoughts on it. Like, does it matter? I've certainly pondered on the podcast, and some of these guys aren't on the team anymore, but like,
yeah,
it obviously, look, it stings to lose a Super Bowl. Those are wounds that run kind of deep, but talking about it in August, like, is that kind of like a bad sign for the Eagles, who are insanely talented, to still be hung up on that, setting themselves up for a Super Bowl hangover?
On one hand, like, I get it. And in the case of Goddard, he was kind of prodded into it a little bit. It's like a little bit, like, I understand that. There's also like CJ, like Gardner-Johnson, though. You're not even on the Eagles anymore.
Yeah.
You're on the Lions. Like, shouldn't you be focused on the Chiefs, by the way? You play week 1. I don't know that it's a bad sign, although it does say, like, it's time to, at some juncture, move on and say, all right, you know what, it's probably time to turn the page. I'm sure it was really hard to lose that game. And to be fair to the Eagles, that field sucked. Like, I get, if you're a defensive line, you're Brandon Graham, I get being really frustrated. On the flip side, though, which of course everybody always says, well, they both played on the field.
Yeah.
And I would argue that the Eagles, in the second half of that game, which is when they lost that game, it wasn't about the field. They were 30 yards away from receivers on plays that started inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And that wasn't because some guy fell over.
Right.
It wasn't because, a corner slipped. They got totally outcoached in the second half of the game. They got totally outschemed. So, yeah, I mean, it's at some point, give it up. I mean, you gave up 38 points. If McKinnon doesn't slide down, you're going to give up 42. That's not all because you just couldn't turn a corner. And by the way, it wasn't like there were a ton of plays in that game where you're like, man, if he didn't slip down there, that's a sack.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Both teams were slipping and sliding. The field sucked. It is what it is. You lost. And the better team won that game. They outplayed him thoroughly in the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, the Eagles played really well on defense in the first half of the game. They really were causing the Chiefs some problems. So, I'm with you, man. You didn't do it in the second half. You just didn't get the job done. You were right there. It was a close game. You had a hell of a team. I would let it go.
I also think, and I tweeted this out, which is I think we were referring to. I really think when the Chiefs play them this season, if the Chiefs have the opportunity to run up the score, they're going to do it. Now, I don't know if they can do it. The Eagles are a great team. But if it just happens to be one of those nights, things are going well for them and they're up, 34-20 or something with 2 minutes left in the ball, they will try to score.
Yeah.
I think there will be a mentality of you know what? Now we're on natural grass and it's not a problem and we're going to try to score 1 million points in this game. That's, I think, the biggest effect of all this talk now. I know it doesn't affect the Super Bowl. That game's over. I think it's going to affect when they play, what is it, week 10 or something, week 11 when they play a Monday night in Arrowhead. Yeah. That's what I think is going to be affected.
Yeah.
Because the Chiefs are going to come out. I would have thought going into that game that the Eagles would be the ones with the big chip on their shoulders and they lost that game. They want revenge, all this stuff. Now that the Chiefs are going to want to beat the brakes off them just as bad as the other way around. I think the Chiefs are going to have an edge going into that game. Okay, you don't think we were better than you? Goddard thinks you'd beat us 10 times out of 10. Okay, well, now we're going to try to hang 50 and see if we can't do that. So I don't think they're doing themselves any favors. Let's put it that way.
Teams just keep poking the bear, man. Not smart. These Chiefs have won a lot of football games the last couple of years.
I mean, I'll say this: at least the Eagles are a really good team, and it's not like Tim Patrick going on whatever it was, like a podcast or a radio show, and talking crap about them. You've never beaten the Chiefs in the game. Right. Literally one time, you've never beaten them. Yeah. I am surprised at how many guys, and look, this happened when Brady was on the Pats and so on and so forth. How many guys do that kind of stuff? And I think part of it is just to kind of get themselves up, and get themselves up for a game, whatever. But it's why? Why would you? Yeah, it's one thing if you're on the best team and you want to do it. Okay, if you're Michael Irvin in the '90s on the Cowboys, you're sure, go ahead, say whatever you want. But it's like if you were on, I don't know, a 6 seed that barely got in the playoffs, and you were just talking an obscene amount of crap to Brady for a playoff. It's not a good idea. Go in there and pray to God you can, compete, maybe get an upset. It's weird. It's weird stuff sometimes from some of these guys. It's
an unforced error for sure. Second thing I wanted to ask you off the top really quickly. So word is, and I've seen some video of this, a bee attacked Patrick Mahomes at training camp today. How should the bee be dealt with?
Death.
Yeah, just straight to the chair.
Yeah. I mean, and I didn't give it the chair twice just to make sure.
Yeah.
Can't risk it.
No.
I saw the video, which was hilarious. I think Aaron Ladd had it, I believe, with Fox, in case he's a good dude. It was very funny. Luckily, from what I can tell, everything worked out okay. But can you imagine that story? I had no idea if Mahomes is allergic to bees or something. But imagine if he was, and you got stung, and you're getting that story out of camp. Mahomes had to be taken to the hospital, because he's allergic to a wasp.
Yeah.
Luckily, the cooler heads prevailed with the bee, and things are okay. But if the Chiefs have to build a mesh dome around the practice field, that's fine.
It would be funny to sort of test out how many grown men would throw themselves in front of a bullet for Patrick Mahomes. Set up some sort of scheme where their grandma and Patrick Mahomes are both in peril at the same time, and just see if they at least hesitate. I think
grandma's had a long life.
Yeah, she's that's right. She's lived a long and happy life.
I really do wonder, the ultimate test, I think, in today's America would be if Mahomes decided simultaneously to just run for, I don't know, governor of Missouri, let's just say. Does it even matter like what party he belongs to and what platform? Like, would he just win in a landslide?
Yeah.
You know, like I think that would be the one scenario where people be, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Like I'm pro Mahomes, right? Like it doesn't matter where he stands on X, Y, and Z issues.
Right.
I feel like it would just completely transcend, just like sports does. Like nobody cares at Arrowhead. If you're turning around high fiving somebody after a touchdown, you're not like, wait a minute, where do you stand on this amendment? Like you know, I think that Mahomes would. It would just be like, it doesn't matter. I'm not voting against this guy. He's given me so much happiness in my life. He wins.
Yeah.
You know, and whatever his policy is, that's secondary.
He could get up there in a debate in Missouri and they could be like, what do you think about the Supreme Court? And he could just be, his answer could just be like, I'm just really focused on winning rings. And people would be like, yeah, I'm voting.
I genuinely think he'd have like a shot to win just based on the fact that he's him.
Oh no, I'd move to Missouri 6 months in advance or however long I needed to live there just so I could vote for him.
Right.
Hey everybody, just letting you know we got a special deal right now with FanDuel Sportsbook. It's a new offer. You can take full advantage of it. If you're a new customer, you get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. All you got to do is click our link in the description below. On YouTube if you're watching live or wherever you get your podcast. If you sign up for FanDuel with our link, you'll not only get that first bet insured, you'll also be doing us a solid because you'll be supporting the podcast. So if you're interested in trying out FanDuel, click the link, sign up with us. This offer is available to new customers only, 21 and older. You got to be physically present in most legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check out the link for the full terms. And if you don't have a FanDuel account, you can go to arrowheadaddict.com/bets and find more betting offers with our partners to help support the podcast. All right, Verderame, training camp is underway. Got a few questions for you on that front. The first one I wanted to just kind of more general is like, which Chiefs, in your view, have the most to prove at training camp? Now, this is a veteran team. You got guys here. You can pretty much pencil out the roster with the exception of a few spots. But, there's guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I'm going to ask about later. Like, who has the most to prove here?
So I'm going to put Clyde to the back burner here because I just think that's kind of settled at this point. Not to ruin the question coming up, but I just think it is what it is. Like I think Pacheco at this point is clear. By the way, Pacheco in his press conference today, if Bolton goes down with a hamstring injury, I think they just slide Pacheco in there. It might be all right.
He's yoked.
My guy, literally when I saw the picture for a split second, I thought it was a linebacker. I was like, oh, it's Willie Gay. And then I saw I thought I saw the 0. I thought it was 5-0. I'm like, oh, that's why I didn't know he was in camp. And then I was like, oh my God, it's Pacheco. But in any event, who's got the most? So I'm going to go a little off the board here. I think Joshua Williams has a lot to prove in the sense that last year he was clearly the fourth corner on the depth chart. Like Watson played more than him despite being a 7th-round pick. Williams was a 4th-round pick. But Williams played well. Like, this isn't like Williams has to prove he can play. But I think there's more. Like, Watson, I don't know that he is the ceiling does because Williams is so athletic. Can Williams translate that into becoming the third corner? Now, if you're the Chiefs, listen, the more competition, the better, right? I mean, you'd love to see him get better. And then, okay, now he's got a real decision that he's forced on Spagnuolo. So I think he's one guy, like, he's good now. Can he become really good? Can he become a guy where you're like, right, that guy is going to be a starter? And maybe that affects their decision on L'Jarius Sneed at some point. Another guy on the offensive side, I think it's obvious. Sky Moore. Sky Moore is a guy, like, when he had opportunities, he played well on offense. Now, on special teams, he was the biggest moment of his life, in which case he had a great return against the Bengals. But on offense, he had that one game against the Chargers where he was really forced into duty. He played really well in that game. He was a really contributing factor. And then to stay there, the last guy I'll throw out there, Kadarius Toney. I don't know that there's anybody under more pressure on the Chiefs than Kadarius Toney. I mean, everybody expects everything out of Mahomes and Kelce, but those guys, as long as they're healthy, they're going to be what they are. I think Toney is the biggest wild team. You could make a real case based off history. He's going to go for 400 yards. I mean, that historically he has been injured. He has not been a guy who has had huge outputs. But when you look at his talent, you could also make the argument like, look, that guy could have 1,200 yards this year. Nobody would even blink. So right. I think he is the biggest variable on the team. I think those three guys are guys that all young guys, couple of second-year players. Tony's in his third year that I'm really watching.
Are you at all worried about this Isiah Pacheco? He's coming back from a couple surgeries, got the yellow jersey on. No one's allowed to touch him. Are you worried about this at all impacting his season?
No, not really. I mean, I think Pacheco is probably not going to be a guy who plays 10 years in the NFL because he is just so incredibly physical. I mean, for those of you who know who Earl Campbell is, like Earl Campbell was basically the size of Aaron Donald, but could run like the wind in the 70s for the Oilers in the early 80s. Earl Campbell played like Pacheco, where he just runs into everything and tries to run it over. He has no fear. But Earl Campbell was enormous, and he lasted like 8 years. He was basically done after like 4 or 5. Pacheco, I don't know that he's a guy who's like going to be somebody who plays for 12 years in the league. That I do worry about him getting hurt, but I'm not worried about this affecting him for week 1. I mean, I think those surgeries happened a while ago. He should be. I think it's really good that he's already out there. Some people thought he'd be on the PUP list. So I think just seeing him on the field gives you a pretty good indication that the Chiefs think he'll be okay. And he even today that he expects to be full go for September 7th.
Yeah, that's good news. Okay, so every year there's somebody at camp. We'll talk about Justyn Ross later. We already know that he's the standing camp crush. But a new name that I've seen pop up a lot over the last few weeks is a lot of people in the kingdom are really high on Deneric Prince.
Yep.
Bigger running back. Some people think maybe he can slide into that fullback role a little bit. Is this somebody that you've got your eye on? Do you have any idea where this fandom is coming from?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a big, fast guy, and he's somebody who, when you watch the tape of him, when he was in college, he can make a move. He's got some good balance. I mean, I like it. The question is going to be, where are those snaps coming from? Now, you could make the argument the Chiefs know, as long as they're healthy, like they're making the playoffs. I don't even know. I mean, would you agree? Like, if they're healthy, they're winning this division.
Yeah, should easily.
That's fair, right? I mean, stink. The Broncos are, I don't know, maybe they're going to win 7 games, and the Chargers are okay. The Chargers are fine, but they're not as good as the Chiefs because the Chiefs are healthy. They're wrapping this division 2 or 3 weeks to go. So, in that world, do you just say, hey, look, maybe instead of giving Pacheco, 15 to 20 carries a game, maybe you're giving him 12 to 15. Maybe McKinnon, you're really limiting his carries and you're just throwing him the ball here and there. You're having him block. I have no problem personally if the Chiefs put McKinnon in bubble wrap essentially until about December. I don't care. Now, I don't mean not play him. I just mean I don't need to see him carry the ball 10 times. Put him in on 3rd down. So maybe there is an opportunity for a guy like Prince who can come in and take some of those carries, or take 3 carries from Pacheco, take 5 carries from McKinnon, or so on and so forth. But I don't think Prince is going to get a ton of time, even if he looks too good at the position. It's just going to be hard for him to get on the field unless there's injury.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And they don't run the ball that much anyway. So if they do, it's probably going to other guys. Well, that leaves us into one more running back question, which is CEH. Now, we talked a while back, and we wondered at the time, would he even be on the roster? Would the Chiefs trade him? And some people think that would be a possibility. But the way things have sort of played out in the running back market over the last few weeks, you got guys like Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt are still available. It's hard for me to imagine that there would be much of a trade market for CEH, although he is younger than those guys. What are your thoughts? Is he just he's penciled in as the early down backup here?
Yeah, I mean, right now he is. I think there's a real world where he's not on this team. He's not taking over Pacheco. He's not taking over McKinnon. And if you're the Chiefs, like if they like Prince, I'm just keeping Prince. I mean, I'm not even thinking about it. Now, if they trade him, they save a couple $1,000,000. If they have to cut him, they save like $700,000 or $800,000 or something like that. But I think if you're Kansas City, if you're Brett Veach, like, what is the good in holding on to him? If and I don't know this for a fact, if he doesn't want to be there, and I would think he wouldn't want to be there if he's not playing. Look, it is what it is. I mean, the Chiefs have drafted really, really well these last 3-4 years. It's just they missed with him. I mean, they did. And the shame of it with Edwards-Helaire, he has talent. I don't think he's a guy that you look at and go, he can't play in the NFL. It's just he's been hurt. And his vision is just the thing that hurts him at times. I thought when they drafted him, they were going to use him much more as a pass catching back who could really. They never really did that. I mean, for whatever the reason, they kind of went away from that, and maybe part of that was look, for most of the time he's made it Tyreek Hill, and they've had Kelce, and they just why the hell are you throwing Clyde Edwards-Helaire and those guys? But yeah, I think you're right. It's probably going to be hard. I would expect them in the preseason to really showcase him, try to really make him look good. Quarter of games, and maybe you can get a 7th round pick, something like that. But anybody who's hoping for more than that, I think you're thinking a lot of wishful thoughts. I just don't see. I mean, look at these guys who can't get a contract.
Yeah,
Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs are two of the best players in football. They can't get signed. I mean, they're taking franchise tags.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be hard to move CH for anything more than a real late pick. And if you get that, you should be thrilled.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't mind. I'd like him to be on the team next year. These guys take a lot of punishment. Somebody to spell Isiah Pacheco, injury insurance, knows the offense, has been able to be productive in this offense at times. Early last year, helped him out in the red zone, did a nice job. So I don't mind him being on the roster for one more year and then, wish him the best of luck.
By the way, you're going to be at camp this year?
I don't know about camp. We may be coming. We may be coming to town in September. We're tinkering around with another live event idea, but I don't know I'm going to make it to camp if that's going to be the case.
Okay. Yeah, I will be there for 2 days. And I think I'm not 100% sure yet. I might be covering the opener, so I'm not sure. I might be in KC. It kind of depends. I mean, we're literally like in the beginning stage, just talking about all this. We're still a couple months away,
Sure.
But I'm very curious to see with the Chiefs this year how they attack this in terms of and not to go off the board, but it's a weird thing to say that it's a lot of legacy on the line for them this year, but I really think it is. More so for the main guy. I mean, for Mahomes and Andy and Kelce. I mean, look, with all due respect to even really good players in the team like a Snead will be remembered by Chiefs fans for how many rings he won and stuff like that. But his historic perspective is not going to be based on whether or not they repeat, right? I mean, nobody ever looks at Asante Samuel's like, hey, how many rings did he have? It matters a quarterback. It matters a head coach. And when you're talking about a guy like Kelce, who's literally in the conversation for the greatest player ever at his position, it matters for a guy like that, even Chris Jones. They came within a game of repeating in 2020, and they of course failed to do so. I really do wonder with them this year, how, especially like I said, those main guys, how much emphasis they're putting on that from jump. We saw them at times, even in the last couple of years, they've had a lot of games where they kind of just play around with the team and then they'll finally put them away in the last 10 minutes. I wonder if you're going to see them take a little bit of a different tack this year where it's going to be, you got to just bury these teams. I don't, and that's of course easier said than done. The other team's got to comply too, but I do wonder with them if there's a little bit of urgency, repeat. There's no question if they're a dynasty. 4 out of 5 years you're in the Super Bowl. Obviously, if you're a Pete, you were in 6 straight AFC title games. You probably won your 8th straight AFC West. I mean, you're talking, if they win the Super Bowl this year, you can make a really, really, really compelling case that in this year they're the greatest team of all time. Now, because I look at the Pats as 2 separate teams. That first team with Brady and then the second team.
Yeah.
Now, people could say, well, other teams have won 3 and 4. Okay, but none of those teams went to 4 and 5, and the Chiefs won 3 of them in that scenario. And none of those teams won 8 straight division title. I mean, you could really, now the Pats won 11 straight at one point, but they never went to 4 out of 5 Super Bowls, although the second one might have. The second one, because they went to 3 straight. Trying to do it. Regardless, you could make a really, they might have gone to 4 and 5. You could make a really good case that if they win the Super Bowl this year, they had more staying power than the 90s Cowboys, than the 80s 49ers, than the 70s Steelers are probably the one you look at and say, well, they went to X and they won them all. So I still would probably give Pittsburgh the nod. But man, you can make a real case for the Chiefs if they another one this year.
And the 90s Cowboys didn't trade away Emmitt Smith and then win another Super Bowl the next year. So that's what's even more impressive about what the Chiefs have done. Hey, we got a super chat from our guy Bumpa. Appreciate you, man. Question for you, Matt. Thoughts on Chris Jones' extension? Why isn't it done? Why has Veach struggled to come to deals with so many players?
So my understanding on the Chris Jones thing is kind of everybody's understanding, which is they value him immensely, if I could say that. Look, this has been an offseason where you've had a lot of D tackles sign. Javon Hargrave was one of the big free agents. He signed for $20 million with the Niners. Deron Payne, $22.5 million. Then Dexter Lawrence signed. Simmons signed. Simmons, if I'm remembering correctly, got $23 million a year. And then, of course, Quentin Williams just got $24 million. I know for a fact that going into free agency, the thought was around this contract from at least one source that, listen, 25 a year is light. Well, is it now? I mean, I think it probably is. I know that would technically make him the second highest paid defensive tackle, but it would barely do so. And I think you're going to have to get closer to Donald's number, which is a touch over 30. I don't think the Chiefs have to go to 30 million, but I think 27, 28 million a year is probably in the neighborhood, which you can get to a lot of different ways. And I would also say, look, if you give Jones 4 and 110, that's 27.5 a year. That can be structured a lot of ways. The third year of that or the fourth year of that, you're never seeing. It's a team option. The bigger number is the guaranteed money. I expect that Jones is going to get somewhere eventually between 70 and 75 million guaranteed if they do this extension. It behooves both sides to do it. If you're the Chiefs, you really can't tag him next year. The tag will be over 30 million. You're not going to do that. That's insane. If you're Jones, you're incredibly valuable right now. And look, I think he'll be incredibly valuable after next year too, but you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, what if, God forbid, he gets hurt? What if he has a year where, for whatever reason, the counting stats aren't there? He has 6.5 sacks. Maybe he plays great, but he just doesn't get the sacks. Maybe Karlaftis gets some of those sacks that he would have got, crushes the pocket, but he doesn't get the guy down. If I'm Jones at this age, as you're approaching that age 30 barrier here, I think you want to get that deal done now. You don't want to risk that. I think there's a lot of reasons. And as far as Veach and, why has he struggled to get some of these deals done? I don't know that I'd say he struggled to get them done. I mean, if you go case by case, so Travarius Ward left and played very well for the Niners last year. I know, talking to people around the situation with that the Chiefs really tried to keep him, but they had a number they were not willing to go over, and the Niners went to that number. With Tyreek Hill was a really weird case because Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs were damn near done on that. That thing was about as close to a done deal as you could ever get without it happening. And then Christian Kirk happened, and more importantly, Devontae Adams happened, and that thing just skyrocketed into now it's $30 million a year. The Chiefs were never giving him $30 million a year. So they knew that if they did that, their defense was going to be basically just a wing and a prayer with draft picks and plan B, plan C, free agent type players. And I think that as we have Mahomes, we can still score a ton of points. And with all that cap space and all the draft capital we're going to get, be able to fix the defense, be able to competitive around Mahomes, which it's hard to argue. They went out and did it.
Yeah.
I think the same thing's coming with L'Jarius Sneed. Not that he's necessarily going to leave, but they're going to have a number and they're not going to go over it. And I don't think that it's necessarily the wrong approach. New England did that for 20 years. And they lose guys, and you're like, how could they lose Richard Seymour? How could they lose Chandler Jones? How could they lose Lawyer Malloy? Did it ever matter? They had Tom Brady and they had Bill Belichick, and they had 3 or 4 guys they weren't going to lose. The Gronks of the world, the Edelmans of the world, and they just kept winning. And I would suppose the Chiefs have Mahomes and a really good offensive line. If they have anything else around that guy, they're going to be there. They're going to be in the fight, and I think that's the way they look at it.
I'm really big on the give Chris Jones what he wants. Obviously not recklessly, but he's so important to this team. He's the quarterback of your defense. He's so disruptive, and I think he's been pretty durable over the course of his career.
Yeah.
He was terrific last year. I think you can expect to get minimum 2 more elite years from him, barring any kind of, disaster type situations. And then 2 very good years. And you may get 3 elite years from him. So I think it's worth it. And I'm sure that they'll get there. This is one of those ones where maybe, it goes into camp a little bit, but I think Veach gets this one done. And I agree with you. He's very smart, and you just always hope, and I don't think that's the case. And he's certainly earned the benefit of the doubt. I just always worry about, and this can happen not just with Brett Veach, with me, you, anybody who has success, is you got to be careful that you don't fall prey to hubris. And you just because I just did that, I'll always, because I've succeeded, I'll always continue to succeed. Sometimes you do need to pay guys. I would say Chris Jones is one of those.
I would agree. I mean, look, you're talking about a guy who's a 4-time All-Pro, once on the first team, 3 times in the second team. He's a 4-time Pro Bowl, 4 years in a row. He has 65 sacks. And if you take out his rookie year, he's had 63 sacks in his last 6 years as a defensive tackle. I mean, that's unheard of. As far as his durability, first 3 years played every game. 2019, he missed 3 games. 2020, he missed 2, although he really missed 1 because they just sat him out the last game of the year because they had clinched everything. 2021, he missed 3 games. Last year, he played every game. I mean, the guy in his entire career for injuries missed 7 games.
And 1 was COVID.
That's right. 1 was COVID. That's good point by you. That's right, because we had him on the podcast.
That's right. That's right.
So and they won. So it all ended up coming up Chiefs.
Yeah.
I agree. And here's the other side of this too, that I think is really important. It sometimes gets overlooked. If you don't pay that guy, what's being said in the locker room?
Right.
I mean, he's been a Chief his whole career. He's never, ever been a problem off the field. Ever. You've never had to discipline him. He's never been an on-field issue. He's never been a guy who's mercurial and you had to deal with that. Kelce early in his career on the field was a loose cannon. I mean, it felt like he had a personal foul every week.
Hilarious, though.
Oh, listen, one of the greatest penalties of all time is when he threw the flag on the official.
Yeah.
Okay. But Kelce was, I remember in that playoff game against Pittsburgh in 2016 where he took one of the dumbest penalties I've ever seen. I mean, he just hauled off on some guy.
Yeah.
Took a 15-yard penalty. Jones has never been that guy. He's never had an off-field concern. He's a leader. He's a winner. Chris Jones probably walking into the Hall of Fame one day. He's that level of a player. He just turned 29 a couple weeks ago. If you don't pay that guy, you're looking around the room going, well, if they're not going to pay him, I mean, geez, they're going to pay me? I mean, they're not paying him. I'm going to get paid? Good luck. Right? I mean, I think that is a message that gets sent. And look, nothing against a guy like a Juwan Taylor who got $480, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but he's never played it down for the Chiefs. They paid him $20 million a year. If you pay him and not Chris Jones, that's going to ruffle some feathers in that building. I mean, that's going to piss some people off in the locker room. Okay, you paid a guy who's never done anything here. Oh, look, good player, never been an All-Pro, never been a Pro Bowler. You're not going to pay Chris Jones, who, let's also call this what it is, who basically won the AFC Championship game by himself at times. I mean, I would argue that's the greatest game he's ever played in his life. That was unbelievable. Yeah. The Bengals couldn't block it. He had, 2 sacks? I mean, he must have hit Burrow a half dozen times.
Yeah, he was all over him.
You got to pay that guy. And I think they will pay him.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on here. We're gonna play a little game called Take It or Leave It, where I'm gonna give you, Verderame, some predictions for the year. Not necessarily my predictions, although I came up with them. And you're gonna take them or leave it, and you can tell me why. But before we do, something kind of fun, Addicts. We want you to get swagged out. We got you covered. The Arrowhead Addict merch store is now live, and you can visit it right now by clicking the link in the description below. We've got everything: shirts, hoodies, beach towels, pint glass. And that's not all. We got a special deal this week for listeners to get 15% off. Just use the code AA Summer. That's AA Summer today. And make sure you use it fast because it expires on Sunday. So it's just for this week's listeners. So you can rep the podcast and save a bit of money. We truly appreciate it. And we have a brand new product. And this is going to be a throwback for all of you who have been with us for a while. It is the I can't believe I'm introducing a shirt with myself on it, but we're doing it. It's the Patrick Allen beer chug shirt. If you remember, a couple of years ago on this podcast, I lost a bet. I bet the Chiefs were going to lose to the Packers before I knew Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to play. And I made that bet with Sterling. And if I lost, I had to stone cold a couple of beers live on the podcast. Verderame had a front row seat. There it is. It's beautiful. I think it's a great shirt for the 4th of July, for opening day of the NFL season. If you're interested, snatch it up. There it is. You can scan the QR code. Iconic Patrick Allen moment. That's the only one in existence in recorded history that we would call iconic. I asked my wife if she wanted one. She said absolutely not. So check that out in the store. Scan that QR code. It's up for grabs. We're going to do more of these, I think. More of these podcast related shirts. We got some really great designs coming out. So snatch that one up if you can. By the way, you send me a picture of you wearing that shirt, you'll get a follow from me on Twitter. If I don't already follow you, guaranteed. I'll be your biggest fan. All right, Verderame. Let's. Actually, we're going to play the clip. Do we have the clip queued up, Richard? Were we going to do that?
All right. So as you know, I bet against my own team. I had this coming.
Stupid fraud.
I said the Chiefs were going to lose to the Packers. I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to play. Here we go. Stone colding. I've never done this before. It's going to be great.
You can't see it if you listen to the audio version.
Woo!
He did
Go
it.
Chiefs.
It was hilarious. All over his face.
I love it.
There it is. If you weren't there for it live, there it is. Verderame, does that bring back some memories for you?
It does. It does. That was entertaining, to say the least. So, the beer chug tea is hilarious.
Yeah. For those of you who are listening on audio who aren't watching the YouTube stream, it is a kind of a white shirt. It's got but it's made to look like a beer. So it's got the beer. The bottom of the shirt is beer, and the top is suds, and it's a ridiculous shirt. It is. I am superimposed on top. So yeah, there you go. It's beer all the way around. Pretty incredible shirt. Sorry for ruining it by putting my mug on it. A lot of that beer I missed.
Yeah, I know.
What are you gonna do? All right. There, by the way, it was stuck. Some of it was on my ceiling up until just a few months ago. Still, it was
nice.
all over the.
It's good.
Yeah. All right. Let's play a little take it or leave it. Get some, hear what Matt Verderame thinks of some of these projections. We got a few here. So take it or leave it. Let's kick it off and let us know if you're watching on YouTube live, let us know in the chat whether you take it or leave it as well. Take it or leave it, Verderame. Isiah Pacheco will rush for over 1,000 yards.
So last year he came pretty close. He was up over 800, I think it was. So he was ballpark, despite not playing a ton early on. The hard thing with the Chiefs is is he going to see enough time? I mean, 830. He rushed for 830, 4.9 yards an attempt, which is great. I'm going to say over. I think it's going to be close because they don't play like the Titans. They're just not going to do that. I think he rushes for just over. I think it's like 1050, 1075, something like that. But I think he'll get enough carries. My biggest concern is just his health, staying healthy. But if he's healthy, I think he'll do it.
Yeah, a lot of the people listening right now agree with you. Lots of take-its from Eli, our guy, Stacy. He's taking it. Angry Drunken German says, easy W. By the way, this was pointed out by our guy, Joe Summers, here at Fansided, who's going to be doing a Friday betting show for us coming up here pretty soon. He caught this over at FanDuel. I can't remember what the odds were there, but I use DraftKings a lot. Over on DraftKings, at least as of a couple of days ago, it was minus 110 for Pacheco, and it was 775 yards, I think, something like that. So, I mean, I'd take that one if you're interested. So, all right. Next up, Verderame, take it or leave it. Patrick Mahomes will once again throw for over 5,000 yards. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it because that is just so hard to do. And I'll tell you the biggest reason I'm going to leave it. Actually, you know what? I'll save it because that kind of would spoil other things. I'm going to leave it. I think he'll throw for like 4,800. I mean, it's hard to do. If you miss a game, that throws it out of whack. If they're winning big late in games, you're going to run the ball more. I mean, look, I'm not saying he's not capable. Obviously, he's capable. He threw 5,500 yards. I wouldn't be shocked if he did it. But I just think with them, I went over on Pacheco partially because I think they're going to have a little more balance. Partially because of maybe the scores of some of these games. So I'll take the under. But I think he's probably around like 47, 4,800.
All right. Some people in the chat, they seem to agree with you too. We got some take-its though. It's kind of split. A lot of people recognizing how difficult it is to throw for 500 for 5,000 yards. Okay, next up, Verderame, take it or leave it. Charles Omenihu will have more sacks than any defender not named Chris Jones.
I'll leave it. I think Karlaftis is going to push 10 sacks. I do. I mean, my God, at the end of the year, he basically had a sack every game. He was incredible. So I think Karlaftis is somewhere around 8 to 10 sacks. And Omenihu, I think is a very nice pickup for the Chiefs. I don't think he's going to have more than that. I think he's probably, to be fair. I mean, his career, he has 11.5 sacks. 4.5 sacks last year. So Karlaftis has had, a bigger year as a rookie than Omenihu's ever had. I think Karlaftis will have more than him. And I think he might even have significantly more than him.
It could be a volume thing. Karlaftis gets more, but I'm going to take it, actually. I hope Karlaftis shows out this year. I believe in his talent. But I think this Omenihu is a really underrated pickup for the Chiefs, and I think they're going to kick him inside a lot, and he's going to benefit from playing next to Chris Jones, and I think they could form a pretty formidable duo inside, and maybe he gets double digits. We'll see. It's going to be hopefully that works out, because that could be pretty fascinating.
They have a lot of guys up front. Yeah. That is going to be the one thing, other than Jones, based on the field every second of the day. Like, you have Dana, you have Anadike Uzama, you have Karlaftis, you have Omenihu. There's a lot of guys. Those guys are all going to see real snaps. So, plus you have the Noddies of the world and the Whartons. I mean, they just have a lot of guys.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Verderame, take it or leave it. Travis Kelce will have under 1,000 yards receiving for the first time since 2015.
I'll leave it. That guy, until he does it, just keep giving me the over. Yeah. I don't know that he'll have like 1,300. Put me down for like 1,250, something like that. I mean, he just, every year he does it. Every year he goes, because to me, the one thing that gets overlooked with him, you always have people like, when is he going to slow down? But his game is built differently. Like Antonio Gates was amazing. But Antonio Gates was a lot of like, and not saying it wasn't great at other things, but like he was an athlete. He was built on athleticism. Tony Gonzalez was amazing from the standpoint that he really was. Like he was just like Gates, a basketball player, football player. I mean, very athletic. And that's what I mean when I say athlete. Like just a very freakish type of human being who could do all these different things. And both those guys, to their credits, had amazingly durable careers, long lasting, and part of that was such great football IQ. But Kelce, he's more great because of his ability to run routes and to use leverage and to understand coverages. Like, I don't think that's going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
And he's always been able to stay on the field outside of his rookie year. I just look at him and think he is the kind of guy I could see him playing at 36 and still being a really good player. Like maybe not 1,300 yards really good, but like over 1,000 because he's just so, he's the best I've ever seen at using just subtle movements to create space. Little hip drop here, a shoulder fake there, nothing exaggerated. We saw that clip. I think a lot of people probably saw it on Twitter earlier this offseason where he talked about, I think he was either doing a camp or something like that. And he was explaining to these kids, like, look, don't come flying off the ball. Like that's, so many guys just come flying off the snap. Yeah. He's like, I just set guys up. It's almost like a little basketball move. Like I'm just trying to get a guy off balance. And he's incredible at it. So I think he's still going to put up big numbers.
Yeah, I hope you're right. It's been an unbelievable, unheard of streak for Travis Kelce. Funny enough, when I was doing research for this, I realized that Travis Kelce, his streak of 1,000 yard seasons, he hasn't not had a 1,000 yard season since 2015. And that is also the last time the Denver Broncos beat the Kansas City Chiefs in September of 2015. So I'll ask you, take it or leave it, the Chiefs will finally lose to the Broncos.
Kind of like I said about Kelce, until it happens, I'm just going to keep shoving it aside. I mean, look, at some point it's going to happen. At some point, Denver's just going to find a way to win the game, and they almost did in both those games last year. Although the one game that we were at Tanner's for, I think, was kind of the case. The Chiefs basically took a nap for about half the game. But no, until it happens, I'm not. I'll tell you the other thing here that is more than just till it happens, like an actual schematic point. I think Vance Joseph is a very good coach. Vance Joseph is not a good matchup from Denver's perspective as their defensive coordinator against Kansas City. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the Cardinals game against Chiefs last year when he was the defensive coordinator there, where, look, he plays a ton of single high and he blitzes like crazy. And if you do that against the Chiefs, you are going to get roasted into oblivion. And Denver, they're going to do it. That's how they're going to play him next year, because that's how Joseph plays. They are going to go single high, and they're going to blitz Mahomes like crazy, and the Chiefs are just going to throw and throw and throw. And like Surtain's amazing, but other than that, who the hell scares you at corner for Denver? I mean, their linebackers are fine, but they're not overwhelming. And really, kind of quietly, Denver's had a good passers for a long time with Miller and Chubb. Like, who are those guys this year? Zach Allen and Randy Gregory? All right. I don't know. Like, I think the Vance Joseph thing is a big part of this. And I don't know where you stand on this. I kind of just think Russell Wilson's cooked at this point. So, yeah, I think he'll bounce back some, but not. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 10 quarterback again.
Yeah, Stacy says, I'll take that. Ronald says, let's ride, leave it. Love that one. Yeah, it's I feel like it just has to happen this year. But maybe I'm having the gambler's fallacy, right? Like that, just like, oh well, it's been so long that it's bound to happen. But that's not how it works. It's Mahomes, and
yeah, I mean, it's like, because what is the streak then? What is it? 15 games, 16 games?
Yeah, well, since 2 games a year since 2016.
15. They won 15 in a row.
One
right?
one in 2015. Yeah.
I mean, you do sit there and go, yeah, it's got to happen at some point. But also, like, every game's unto itself. And the reason the streak has gone on and on and on and on and on is that Denver just hasn't been any good. Denver hasn't been good since then. And the Chiefs are just, I mean, Denver hasn't made the playoffs in that entire streak except for the first win when they won the Super Bowl that year. They've sucked. They haven't made the playoffs once. And I just look at Denver and go, you're going to have to score points to beat them. I like the receivers, but none of them are guys you're like, oh my God, that guy's a top 10 receiver in the league. Like, they're fine. None of them are even top 10 receivers in the conference.
Yeah.
Javonte Williams is an excellent running back, but I mean, if Russell Wilson's not markedly better, they're going to take a big step back defensively this year. Evero was their defense coordinator last year, and I was with Carolina in the same position. Evero was an awesome coordinator. Like, if I thought Denver, frankly, should have paid just about any price to keep him in that building. They let him walk. And again, I don't dislike Joseph, but when you play the way Joseph does, but you better have a lot going for you talent-wise on the defensive side of the ball. Because if you don't, I mean, last year when the Cardinals played the Chiefs, they put Isaiah Simmons one-on-one against Travis Kelce, and it was a murder scene the entire night. I like Josie Jewell. If they put Josie Jewell one-on-one with Travis Kelce, he's going for $150 and 2 touchdowns. Like, he's not stopping him. I just think it matches up really well for the Chiefs.
You know, my Cleveland Cavaliers just won the Summer League championship, and I saw they actually give them rings.
I have the
for this.
I know. Yeah,
it's completely absurd. Should the Broncos players get rings if they finally beat Patrick Mahomes?
The Broncos player, I mean, there should, first of all, if the Chiefs lose to Denver, there ought to be a moment of silence over it. Second of all, yeah, I mean, at that point, my God, they should really have like a ring ceremony. The funny thing is when they finally do it, whenever it is, whenever this year, next year, 20 years from now, whenever it is, the Broncos will celebrate like it is the biggest thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs are just going to be like, that's fine. I mean, it's one of those things like almost like big brother, little brother. If the little brother beats the big brother in a game of horse, like it's the best thing that's ever happened in the world. And the older brother's like, that's nice. I have a date.
Yeah.
I need to go.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what it'll end up being like whenever it happens.
All right. Next up here, take it or leave it. One of the Chiefs' starting tackles will get benched for poor play. Offensive tackles.
Wow. All right, so let's kind of work through it. I do not think that's happening with Juwan Taylor. If they bench him making $20 million a year, that is a rough look. And frankly, he's the reason. Like, he's a pretty good player. I don't think that's going to happen. So really, it's about Donovan Smith. So that's a two-pronged thought. One is, like, does Donovan Smith bounce back? Because he was a very good player for a long time. Last year, he struggled. Had injuries, but struggled. If you bench him, who the hell's playing for him? I mean, is it going to be third-round rookie Wanya Morris at Oklahoma? Is it going to be Niang? I'm gonna leave it. I just don't think. Now, we haven't seen camp. I mean, if Morris comes out and it looks like Willie Roaf, then okay, maybe. But assuming he looks like most rookies do, I'm gonna leave it. I know for a fact, like the Chiefs were happy when they signed Donovan Smith. They really believe in him. I know they firmly believe that last year was an aberration because of some injuries, including some that weren't really all that reported. They are adamant, like they expect him to be very good. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but they believe in him. That wasn't just like, it's a flyer. I think if the draft had played out differently, maybe they don't sign him. Like if they had a guy there sitting there, whatever, let's just say if Darnell Wright had gotten to them, yeah, sure, they take him. Didn't happen that way. Yeah, I don't know. I do not think they're going to bench one of the.
We're getting a lot of leave-its in the chat. Angry Drunken German says, nope, our left tackle will get injured. The old quotes. All right. This one goes to the receivers. Take it or leave it. The receiver, so not Travis Kelce, the receiver with the most receiving yards this season will be MVS. Take it or leave it.
It's a really good one. I'm going to take it. Until Kadarius Toney does it. Like, obviously, as I've said a few times here, I got to see it, man. Like, I get all the Toney hype. People are going crazy. Like, Kadarius Toney, if he was on any other team, a big do it. Prove it. Do something. I mean, you've been in the league 2 years, and you've had some moments, but like you haven't done anything consistently. Also, not totally in love with the stuff going on around Toney the last, what was it, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah.
Like, could have done without that, man.
Yeah.
Like, really could have done without that. MVS, say whatever you want about him. You know what you're getting out of the guy. He's a big play threat. He's gonna have some games where he's quiet. I could see that being something where all of a sudden Toney's 3 games into the year and you're like, yeah, that guy's gonna lead the team. But MVS is the most proven receiver on the team. I don't think it's going to be Watson or Richie James. I do not think it's going to be Sky Moore, although I do think Moore will be much improved. I could see it being MVS. And I think Toney has the highest upside easily, but MVS is probably the safest bet.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm going to take that one as well. And I think that, last year they talked a little bit about MVS and he gave some interviews and he said, I'm not just a deep threat guy. I can do some things underneath. If he's big. And so if the Chiefs want to try to utilize him in some of those Juju Smith-Schuster roles, now that they have Toney, who could also stretch the field with his speed, I could see them flip-flopping them a little bit in certain situations, opening up some shorter passes for MVS this year and a few more target opportunities. We will see. It's going to be fascinating to see how this group plays out.
I think if there's going to be a guy who replaces Juju, I think it's going to be Sky Moore, because Sky Moore can run routes really well. That's one thing with MVS. I mean, with all due respect to the man, he's not a great route runner. He can run a post route, he can run a go, he can run all that, but like MVS isn't going to sit there and run a 10-yard in a whole bunch of times and a bunch of slant body shape to do it, but it's just not his game. Moore can do that stuff. Like that, he's the guy I could see them being like 3rd and 6 slant route going to Sky Moore. Does he become that? I don't know. And then of course you have the X factor that is Rashee Rice, who, to my understanding today, had a very good practice, did not throw good. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of receiver by committee and then Kelce.
Yeah,
and it worked okay last year.
It sure did. Okay. Here's a fun one. Take it or leave it. The Chiefs and Eagles meet on November 20th. They will both be undefeated.
Oh, I'm believing it. I'm believing. I don't think they'll both be undefeated. I don't think either one of them be undefeated. It's so like I know the Eagles went deep in the year last year undefeated and all that, and it's just so difficult to do it. Now, the Chiefs' schedule is such that like it's not crazy. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that the hardest games they have, I believe, Jacksonville week 2, the Jets week 4, and the Dolphins in Germany, which is their last game before they play the Eagles, and they have bye week. So they could. I mean, listen. You would expect that they're going to beat the Lions. You would expect they'll beat the Bears, the Vikings. Serves right. They played Denver on a Thursday night before that game. They play the Chargers. They might even play the Chargers. Play them once. I think the Chiefs will have problem. Because what game is that for the Chiefs? What week is it?
It's right after. They're both coming off the bye. It's week 11.
So the Chiefs will have 9 games.
Yeah, they both play 9.
I think the Chiefs will be something like 7-2 or 8-1. Somewhere in that range. I have a hard time thinking they're both going to be undefeated.
I will say, looking at Philly's schedule, if I had to pick one, they've got at New England, Minnesota, at Tampa, home against Washington, at LA Rams, at Jets, home against the Dolphins, at Washington again, and then home versus Dallas. I mean, there's some tough games in there. Miami, if Tua is playing well, Dallas will be a challenge. We don't know about the Jets, but those other games, they should win those.
That New England game's a weird game week 1 because Belichick's got the whole damn year to prepare for him.
Yeah.
That is not the week I'd want to see New England. I'm not saying they'll beat them, but that is not the game. Like it's frankly why I like the Lions a lot this year, but my God, could the NFL have screwed them anymore? Like they got to go to Kansas City week 1. The Chiefs are going to prepare from the year off season and have like 30 plays in their book that have never been shown. And the Lions have to walk in there when the Chiefs are, unveiling a banner on national television. Oh, by the way, Andy's $1 billion in these types of games. Have fun. I can see that being a game where the Chiefs just kill the Lions, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're trash, and then the Lions go like 11-6. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. Are you buying it? Do you think they'll beat it?
I've been on the record as saying that I think the Chiefs are going to get off to a hot start. I have them finally losing to Denver, that being the weird game they have that like they're clearly better, but Sean Payton has some stuff and it kind of knocks them off. But when I was looking at the Eagles schedule while I was doing my show prep, I was like, man, it's hard to go 9-0 in the NFL period. 2 teams go 9-0. But when I looked at the Eagles schedule, I was like, all right, it might be slim, but it's definitely not impossible. And boy, wouldn't that be incredible? Super Bowl rematch, week 10, 2 9-0 teams undefeated on Monday Night Football. I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
I would be campaigning SI heavily to send me to the game to cover.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You'd want to be at that one for sure. Okay. Few more here. Take it or leave it. Trent McDuffie will have 4+ interceptions.
I'm leaving it. I think he's going to have a great year, but the man had 0 last season. And it's just hard these days. It's much harder than it was when we were younger, where, teams didn't throw the ball, I don't know, 2 yards every time they threw it. Now everybody checks down a million times, and they're just so safe with it. It's hard. That's why Marcus Peters, to me, is so impressive. Like the amount of picks that guy has gotten over the years.
Yeah.
That's crazy in today's game. You don't have many guys getting, or even say whatever you want, like Trayvon Diggs. That's a year he ago. I mean, the guys just don't do that anymore. So I'll go on. I think he'll have like 2 or 3. I think he'll play very, very well. And that's the other part of this. I just think teams are going to be from him. So I'll go under. I think my prediction is Williams or Watson. I could see Watson elite. He's pretty damn good with his hands. He had a lot of picks last year for a rookie. I could see him leading the team.
Yeah, our guy Stacy from Arrowhead Addict, one of the writers over there, thinks if we had said Watson, he would have taken it. Okay, here's a fun one. Rashee Rice will have over 300 yards receiving. Take it or leave it.
they do not utilize rookie receivers very much. Even Tyreek Hill's rookie year, it took them to like middle of the year to finally throw the ball to him.
He had like 600, I think. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Like they barely used it. Like they were using him. He was just so unbelievable. Every time he touched the ball, they're like, all right, we finally have to throw it to him. God, I don't know, man. I'll say over for one reason. I think that there's just a lot of room for Rice to see the field this year. So I'll say over, but of all the ones we've talked about, that's probably the one I'm least confident on.
Yeah.
Like because 300 yards is not that much. I mean, when you really think about it, it's like what, 20 yards a game, you know? Like I'll say over by a smidge, like 320, 325, something like that.
All right. Let's go to the next one here. Okay. Take it or leave it. The Chiefs will beat the Bengals in the regular season.
Play them at home, December 31st. I'll take it. I think, you know, and that's probably bad Chiefs fans because I don't think I've ever predicted one of those games correctly because last year I famously on this podcast said I thought they'd lose the AFC title game and got absolutely just killed for a week straight. I think the fact they finally beat them just matters. Like the first 3 games, it wasn't like they really got outplayed. They were just crap shows. A lot of Chiefs, they did stupid mistakes, you know, just big errors. Whether it was a coach, whether it was the executing. I just think now that they've won the game, and I got to tell you, I think that game is going to be for the number 1 seed in the AFC. And the fact that if that game's in Cincinnati, I'd pick the Bengals in full disclosure. But the game's at Arrowhead Stadium. Cold weather to me doesn't matter. They're both cold weather teams. They can both play in that. But I think that it does matter for the Chiefs that they finally got over that mental hurdle. The Bengals have for a while. Now they don't. Yeah, I think whoever's home in that matchup is the rightful pick.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm going to take it as well. And I would love to see the Chiefs, since it's going to be New Year's Eve, you know, bust out some party hats afterwards if they win on the field. Always fun to celebrate at the Bengals' expense. Okay, so just kind of the flip of that here. The take it or leave it, the Chiefs will beat the Bills in the regular season.
So, that game's early December. And, you know, this is a Chiefs podcast. We're going to get into the Bills. I got to tell you, the Bills are the team to me this year. I do not know what the hell to expect. There's a part of me that thinks, I mean, look, the Bills are certainly really talented. They can. I don't know. It's a weird vibe with them right now. All the stuff with Diggs, they had the blowout loss in the playoffs last year. Like that team, and I wrote that for SI Mike. Bills fans were not happy about that. I'm like, look, you're old and expensive. You are. Like, deal with it. I mean, there are a lot of guys in that team who are 20, 31 years old and older who are making major money. And not just this year, like into the future. I think the Chiefs are going to beat them. And the last 2 years, I have picked the Bills to go into Arrowhead and beat them. It's a complete opposite with the Chiefs and the Bengals. I've actually been right on the money with the Chiefs and the Bills. I'm pretty sure every time they've played. I just have a weird feeling with Buffalo this year. I think they're the kind of team, man, that like some weeks you'll watch them and you're like, oh my God, that team could absolutely beat anybody any given week. And other times you'll watch them and you're going to say that exact same sentence in a different way. Like, oh, what the hell? Like, what happened? Like, how do you lose that?
The Chargers, basically.
Yeah, like where you're just like, what happened? Like, how the hell did you lose that game?
Yeah,
I think the Chiefs will win the game. I think the Chiefs, in some ways, man, their hardest games are like, you know, that game because of the emotion in it. That Miami game because it's in Germany. Like, it's just a weird, and like you have the bye week right after it. So are you mentally like, that's a game you look at, and then almost for the Chiefs, like the Colts game last year, like those weird like at New England when it's like, and they're not paying half. Although it helps them, it's a Monday night game in December. But games like that almost with them, or like I'll give you a perfect example: Minnesota. Some game where they ought to score 45 points, but like Minnesota comes out like it's the Super Bowl and the Chiefs are like, week 5, whatever. And like, screw around for 4 quarters. Those games scare me more at the Chiefs than the real big ones. Those are the ones they usually show up for.
Kirk Patterson in the chat says Bills lose, Madden curse is real. Hey, whatever gets the job done. Okay, next up is take it or leave it. Justyn Ross will make the final roster.
Leave it. Nothing against them, but I just they always carry 6 receivers. And I would ask anybody, okay, so tell me who the guy is that's not making the team. So you got Rice, you've got Kadarius Toney and MVS, you've got Watson and Richie James. Who's not making the team?
I could see Watson or Richie James not making it. Richie James would probably be the most likely one not to make it. He hasn't been with the team.
He had over like 550 yards last year.
Yeah, but you and I could have got a few 100 yards receiving on that team. Everybody was hurt.
Oh, but my God, but you're getting that from Daniel Jones?
Yeah,
I mean, if that,
fair.
that's roughly equivalent to 1,800 yards.
Yeah.
I think of all the guys, Watson would be the one. But, you also got to keep in mind, like, those back end from the depth chart, they got to play teams.
Right.
So, like, is Justyn Ross going to go out there? She's going to put him out there and have him playing special teams? Maybe, but, like, it's a huge injury risk. That's the concern for me. I hope he does because it'd be a great story. And by the way, maybe the Chiefs keep 7 guys this year without a fullback. Maybe they decide to keep an extra receiver. But to me, it's a long shot. It's not impossible, but it's a long shot.
If he's going to make it, this is the season to do it. I mean, you've got.
If he doesn't make it this year.
Yeah, this is the season to do it. Somebody might pick him up. Okay. Take it or leave it. The Chiefs will win the number 1 seed again.
All right. So last year, we all went into the season thinking that this was going to be a really tough spot for the Chiefs because we thought they might be not rebuilding, but kind of rejiggering the roster. And the division was supposed to be great. Well, it turns out the Broncos remain the Broncos and the Raiders remain the Raiders. And the Chargers, to a large degree, remain the Chargers. We talked about at the beginning of the show. I don't think the division's good. I'll tell you right now, I'll go on. I think the Raiders are going to be a bottom 5 team in the league. I think the Raiders stink. And I could see that thing getting bad. Like, you remember when Josh McDaniels was in Denver and that thing started to go downhill?
Yep.
That was not pretty. I could absolutely see Devontae Adams 6 weeks into the year being like, get me out of here. I am done with this. Trade me. I mean, I can see Chandler Jones, young, they got Tyree Wilson behind them, like, gone, see it, just dump him on another team. So I say all that to say that I don't think the Chiefs' schedule is that hard this year. Like, I really don't. Like, the AFC East is not going to be easy. They should beat the Pats. The Bills will get at home. And even if they go like 3-1 in the division, they play the NFC North. That division's not good. The Chiefs should win those games. And they should win their own division, at least 5 of them. It's just weird to say. Like, division games are hard, but the Chiefs typically roll the teams in the division. The AFC East, which I just mentioned, I think is difficult. Like, that's going to be hard to go in. And then, by the way, that division also plays the NFC East. That is going to be a gauntlet for those teams. I don't think anybody in that division is getting the number 1 seed. The AFC North, I don't think anybody's there going to get the number 1 seed either. All those teams are at least capable. All of them. Jacksonville might be the biggest threat in this sense. They play the AFC South and the NFC South. I mean, that's 10 of their games.
Yeah.
They could go 9-1 in those games. But the week 2 game's actually kind of important for the Chiefs. Like, you kind of want to win that game to have the breaker. I'm going to be consistent, though. I've been saying, like, if you've been doing something, I'm going to keep keeping on with it. I think they're going to probably be the number 1 seed. They're the best team. Yeah. And I don't think their schedule is that prohibitive. I think they're probably like a 13 to 14 win team. And I would never pick a team to go 16-1. It's just so hard. They have the capability to do it. Like, that team, I don't know how you guys, you feel and how the people in the chat feel. I think this is the best team they've ever had around Mahomes. They are loaded defensively. They've got guys coming out of their ears on defense. They've got a great line. They have Mahomes at the peak of his powers. I would argue the best coaching staff in football. I mean, they are just – that team, if the receivers do anything between the tight end and the running backs, if the receivers can just even be average, 20th in the league, whatever, if the Chiefs are focused and healthy, I think there's a real chance they just really kind of roll through the regular season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it all comes down to the tackle play. Do they get good tackle play? Does it disrupt Mahomes? If they get what they want out of the tackles, they should roll in a lot of these games. Last one here, take it or leave it. Andy Reid will make over 2 cheeseburger jokes during the course of the year.
Oh, I'll take that. Yeah. And Andy likes a good cheeseburger joke. Andy also likes a good cheeseburger.
Yeah.
So, I think Andy's got a lot of those jokes on him.
Love it. We got one more quick segment, Paddy's Power Rankings, coming at you. Just before we do, if you like the Arrowhead Addict podcast, please consider becoming a member of the Arrowhead Addict family. Members get access to special emojis, loyalty badges during our live YouTube streams. They also get an invite to a private Discord where they can hang out with the AA hosts and talk Chiefs football, movies, beer, so much more. Members get invites to private events with the hosts, like virtual happy hours. So check out the link in the description or wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate your support. We'd love to become friends with you, talk some ball. We're getting ready to start up our fantasy football leagues, all that great stuff. So check it out. Okay. Paddy's Power Rankings. If you watch this show, listen to the show for a while, you know this used to be a serial podcast. And I thought it would be fun, Verderame, since you were going to be on today, to get back to our roots a little bit and do not a ranking of our favorite cereals, but a ranking of your top 3 most hated cereals. Garbage that you'd never pour another bowl of. I'll give you a second to think because I sprung this on you. I'll kick us off. I'm going number 3 most reviled, grape nuts. It's like a bowl of gravel. Why would you ever want to do it? So that's number 3 for me. Number 2, and this one's going to be kind of controversial because I know there's some stands out there. Raisin Bran. I think it's gross. It gets soggy. I'm not a big raisin guy. I don't want it. They float to the bottom of the cereal. It's weird. I don't like it. I don't like Raisin Bran. And number 1 most reviled cereal for me, and this is because my parents were worried I got too hyper and they want me to have too much sugar, and it was always on sale and they'd sell giant boxes of it. Flavorless cornflakes. Hate cornflakes. And this really it's directed at my father because he's the one who'd go to the grocery store and he'd buy the big family size box of cornflakes. I hated them. I'd dump a bunch of sugar on there trying to make them like Frosted Flakes. So those are my 3. But my hatred for cornflakes runs deep.
Okay. So I will try to stay away from the 3 that you use, although I'm with you on all 3. Yeah. I agree with you on all 3. Raisin Bran, by the way, should be shot into the sun.
Yeah.
So I will start off by saying I'm going to give you a blanket one. Any bagged knockoff cereal is bullshit.
Oh, they're terrible.
They all have like a weird taste to them.
Like cleaning solution.
Yeah, it's like there's a chemical. It's awful. It's awful. It's like when like diet soda first started becoming really popular, and you're like, oh my god, like they just didn't know how to make it. And now like I'm sitting here knocking down Diet Mountain Dew like a clown.
Yeah.
But it tastes fine. It tastes like the regular one. Any bag cereal, these knockoffs, like, hey, here's Fruit O's. No, garbage, trash, get out.
Yeah.
Number 2, this is kind of a weird one, but I'm not a big fan of like the regular Chex. Like, go chocolate Chex.
Yeah.
Go like get some flavor in there. I don't understand. It's soggy quick, like. I don't know, man. Like, if you're going to have a cereal, have a damn cereal. Have something with some taste to it. I never understood why people get cereal and they're pouring sugar on it like nonstop. Then just go get a damn sugary cereal.
Right, right.
I love the people that get it and they're like, oh, no, it's healthy. Like, no, it's not after you pour 18 tablespoons of sugar on it. Does it taste like cardboard that's been wet for a day?
Yeah.
So that's number 2. And then number 1, again, this is because there are so many other variations. I don't understand people that do this. And we actually have a box set upstairs right now because my wife did it, and the divorce might be imminent. Regular Cheerios. Why? Go get apple cinnamon Cheerios.
Yeah.
Go get blueberry Cheerios. Go get peanut butter and chocolate Cheerios. Yeah, like Honey Nut, a classic. What kind of a serial killer? Apparently my wife, by the way, is up there right now moving around. Like, why? Why are you eating regular Cheerios? And by the way, it's the biggest fallacy in the world. Cheerios, you always hear like, oh, they're good for you. No, they're not. Okay. They're as sugary and as bad for your Cinnamon Toast Crunch is. So you might as well just live the dream. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, the only reason I'm not pushing the divorce papers through is she also got a family-sized box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And so in which case we're good.
There we
But,
go.
like, yeah, I don't get it. And I will say, in complete seriousness, I am eating like really, really clean, and I'm playing pickleball like 4 hours a day, all because I know I've got to be lean and mean and in good shape for when October rolls around. Because the
Right.
second October rolls around, I'm a degenerate.
Yep.
I'm going to go to Target. I'm going to find somebody and go, hey, listen, you got some Count Chocula, like it's a drug deal. And, right, and I'm going to walk out of there like a pallet of Count Chocula
Yeah.
and just stuff my face with it and explain, like, oh, it's all right. It's all right. I went to the gym today.
Yeah.
So I've got to get myself right by the time Count Chocula comes rolling around.
It's Count Chocula season, baby. I mean,
Oh.
it's going to start appearing soon. Once you get into August, you might start finding it. I mean, you got to be on the lookout early. The connect that I have found is Meijer. If you've got a Meijer near you,
Got a Meijer 2 minutes away from me.
yeah, Meijer
24
and
hour.
Walmart usually has them. But yeah, I mean, like 2 months ago, I was in alleys, with like there were guys with like trench coats on, opening them up. Hey, got a box of Count Chocolate, it's half eaten, and I'm paying $50 for it.
I'll never understand why they don't keep that thing out year round.
No,
There's always this idea that, like, well, because it drives up the want for it. Bro, I've got a want for it in March.
yeah,
It's great. It's like Cinnamon Toast Crunch only being available like a month out of the year.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
ridiculous.
God. That would be a nightmare.
Yeah, like, what are we doing? Meanwhile, bullshit-ass Raisin Bran is out 12 months a year. Ain't no demand for Raisin Bran.
Yeah.
Like, it infuriates me to no end.
I still have a full box of Boo Berry, by the way, from last.
Blueberry's
time.
kind of weak sauce.
Yeah. I'm gonna eat it, but it's taking me a while.
But
All right, everybody, this was a ton of fun. Always good to get Verderame in here talking food, talking cereal. Appreciate everybody. We've gone a little bit long, so we're gonna get out of here. Hopefully, we can get Verderame back here in August as the camp battles heat up. Get his report from Chiefs camp and let us know what he's seeing out there. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. For producer Richard, who said, by the way, that the bagged cereal knockoffs taste like medicine. That's exactly right. Absolutely terrible. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will see you next week with our regular schedule. But, until then, as always, go Chiefs.